Are you headed to a shelter to see if there's a dog that's just right for you? I love it, yes! But dogs can be a lot of work, and you do have to pick the one that's right for your lifestyle. So this week's video is going to be a great one for you. If you're not sure if a rescue shelter, or maybe even a breeder, is the right choice for your dog acquisition, check out my other video here to find out about picking out a good breeder. Considering looking into rescues and breeders to find that furry friend. Picking the right dog for your home is one of the most important decisions you will have to make. Michelle here with how to train a dream dog. Now, before I hop right in, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss another important lesson like this one. Did you know that between 6 and 8 million animals are actually given up to shelters each year? Most pets end up in shelters not because they were lost, but because they were surrendered. Moving and landlord issues are listed as the most common reasons people give up or relinquish their pets. That means shelters are often full of family-friendly pups. Okay. Let's get into the nitty-gritty of how to choose a dog when you go to the shelter. Now, if you can, try to go to the shelter on a day that won't be really busy with a lot of other people. You're going to want to take time with this process, and if others are there waiting to meet the same dog, you might not be able to really pay attention to what you're learning or need to know about this dog that you're interested in. Now, when you arrive at the shelter, I want you to promise yourself that you're not going to bring home the dog on the same day. Here, let me explain why. Most shelters won't let you walk in and adopt on the spot anyway. This is a great policy to prevent impulse buying. You can sometimes put a dog on hold and let the staff know that you have a really strong interest. It is better to carefully consider a pup than to adopt what ultimately turns out to be the wrong dog for you and your family. Now, I also recommend that for your first visit, really don't bring the kids either. It's better to save that for the second visit. Bring another person who perhaps is not even a family member. That person's role is to take the emotion out of the decision and think more logically about this dog and if he or she would be a good match for your family. Now, one important tip when picking out a dog from a shelter: don't pick the dog out based on looks. I see this happen all too often when a newbie walks into a shelter after having looked online at all the available dogs for adoption. They see a super adorable dog they think they want to bring home without knowing anything about the dog's history or the temperament or the needs or the health and wellness of that dog. Remember that an environment that the dog is in plays a huge role in behavior. Every dog is going to act differently. Some might seem frantic and will bark or jump or yelp and just do anything to try to get out of that kennel they're in. Others could appear frightened from the noise of the other dogs on site and the parade of strangers looking into their rooms. It's going to be really helpful for you to get the dog out of that shelter environment and see him or her in a separate quiet room or even outdoors. Then you can study the dog's body language to see how it might change. This is going to help you get to know the dog better as well. If you can ask to take the dog for a walk, that would be great. When you're able to be alone with that dog, I want you to first observe and don't really interact. Resist the temptation to try to pet him, hug him, scratch those ears. There's going to be plenty of time for that. Right in the very beginning, out of respect for the dog, let him have his space. Stand or sit quietly without making any eye contact and let him smell you as much as he wants. Curiosity is a natural trait in dogs, and this is a good thing. But even if the dog is really timid, don't dismiss him or her just yet. Shelters can be very stressful environments, and you just don't know how many different people that dog has been meeting over the last few hours or even days. Now, if this dog seems timid and stays in a corner, just sit quietly and don't try to make eye contact or pet them just yet. Watch for any body language that would indicate that she's slowly getting more comfortable with you. Now you can watch her muscles to relax and the breathing to slow down and the ears to relax and be a little bit more pliant or loose. Now, I've read a lot of articles that suggest taking the dog on a walk is a good idea, and I totally agree with this. But then I've also read in that same article the advice that goes on to say that if the dog pulls on the leash, skip that dog and choose a different one. What? No, hold the phone. I don't think that's fair to the dog. That's like saying if a child is in kindergarten and doesn't know how to line up nicely, kick him out of school. These skills are something that need to be taught to the dog. Now, while leash pulling is not a reason to reject the dog, you do want to make sure that you can at least physically control him or her so that during training, you don't get hurt or they don't get loose and run away. Teaching a dog how not to pull while on a leash is not hard, but it takes a lot of practice in less stimulating environments to start. It also involves some knowledge of the training process and how dogs think and learn. Now, if you want to learn more about that, check out this free workshop that can get you started with your canine education. Now, other than interacting and or observing the dog, it's a good idea to ask the staff and the shelter about that dog. Try not to ask yes and no questions like, do you think he'll get along with other dogs? Ask open-ended questions like, how does he act with other dogs around? Now, here are a few other questions to consider as well. What's the dog's history? Has there been any temperament testing, and what were the results? What's the best thing about this dog? What's the worst thing about this dog? How does the dog interact with the other dogs or even cats? What is the shelter's return policy? How does the dog act with children? Now, after your first visit to that shelter, go home and think about the pros and the cons of each of those pups and go back the next day for another visit. Now, if you have another dog in the home and you want to see how he or she's going to react with that dog that you're considering, you can bring him or her for that visit. Check with that rescue first, though. Pro tip here. On-leash greetings between dogs are actually a really bad idea. You're going to want to start with what we call parallel walks, so the dogs get a chance to smell each other at a distance but not yet invade each other's space. Now, after a little exercise, it might be time for some off-leash greetings in an enclosed yard. Keep the interaction short and sweet. This is really not a play date. One of the most popular sections of the online course is my lesson in canine communication during play. I actually teach my students how to evaluate body language to know when the play date is good and healthy and when it's time to intervene. That would actually be a great one to watch before you have this interaction at the shelter. Now, during the second or third visit, you might bring other members of the family like children. Okay, before I wrap up today, I want to give you just a few tips on bringing home that dog that you've chosen super carefully. Now, when you first come home, try to make sure the environment is calm and quiet. All dogs need some time to settle, and dogs from shelters need even more time to decompress from that stressful living situation they just came from. Now, it may take months for a shelter dog to really come out of their shell and feel comfortable in your new home. Focus on a schedule, the crate training, potty training, and just really getting to know each other. Keep stimuli low and establish a routine that builds confidence and security. Now, don't worry if your new companion isn't super cuddly or playful just yet. This is all new and a bit overwhelming for them. They may not take treats from you right away or even eat their food immediately. Try to use that same food that the dog was on at the shelter at first. A rapid transition to a new food could cause stomach upset. Now, I usually recommend transitioning to a new food over about a 7 to 10 day period. Also, resist the urge to head out on a neighborhood walk right away. This is actually where a decompression walk is going to be an amazing experience for that dog. Now, you can learn more about that in this video here. Now, if you have another pet, be sure to keep the introduction short and give them all the space they need. I also have a great video all about introducing a puppy to an older dog that will be helpful, and a similar one for cats too. Above all, lower those expectations and be patient. With time and training, this dog will likely become a loving member of your family. But give them time to adjust. It's very common for shelter or even rescue dogs to seem standoffish or distant at first. They may even sleep a lot the first few days. They may try to find a safe, dark, quiet place in your home as well. Be cautious about reaching for them from under beds or even from within closets. It's best to block off spaces like that and instead offer them a safer penned off area or even just an empty room. Now, resist the urge to give them access to the whole house right away. Too much space too soon can be very overwhelming, and this can actually lead to accidents and chewed items in your home. We treat new dogs in the home just like we do puppies, until we get to know them better. This means we're going to limit their space and take them out to potty frequently. Now, while the shelter may have told you that they were potty trained, they don't know where to go at their new home just yet. Now, this may require some retraining. Just like with puppies, you're going to take the dog outside on a leash and you're going to reward them in the place you want them to go potty. If you're finding that your new pup's behavior is puzzling, or if you're really not sure where to start with training, I've got the training for you. Consider enrolling in our 30 Days to Puppy Perfection program, where I can take you step by step through the training games that are going to help you build an amazing relationship with your dog. In the comments below, tell me, have you picked out a new name for that new puppy?